Welcome everyone. We are live, I think, because it says live and it's 10 seconds in, so I'm going to go with that. Welcome everyone today, and to all our viewers and to our wonderful panelists joining us from around the globe for today's LinkedIn Live event hosted by Roc Search. We are a specialist technology and engineering staffing organization. My name is Danny Cohen. I am actually the president of our US business. I also sit on a few boards, such as the co-chair for Women on Boards 50/50. For Austin, I'm the DEI director for the WIC Network in Greater Texas and a board member for the San Diego Tech Hub. Those are to name a few. And my purpose is creating pathways for the underserved and underrepresented. I'm delighted to have each of you with us today as we embark on an insightful exploration of a crucial topic, finding your why and your next job. In a world where career paths are constantly evolving and the pursuit of meaningful work has become increasingly important, understanding our personal motivations and aligning them with our professional endeavors is key to success and fulfillment. Throughout our session today, we'll dive deep into the concept of finding your why, uncovering your passion, values, and purpose to guide your career decisions. Additionally, we'll provide practical tips and strategies and resources to navigate the job process effectively, helping you find the role that not only aligns with your skills and experience, but also fulfills your deepest sense of purpose. Whether you're a seasoned professional, seeking a new challenge, or a recent graduate taking your first step into the workforce, this event offers valuable insights and guidance to support you on your career journey. So get ready to gain inspiration, practical advice, and actionable insights as we explore the intersection of purpose and career with Roc Search. Thank you for joining us, and let's dive into the discussion today. So I'm going to introduce our wonderful panelists. Firstly, let me introduce Gioscia Toothacre. Gioscia Toothacre is a top career coach and strategist, recognized as number 2 by Career Addicts. With over a decade of experience, she specializes in empowering professionals to align their careers with their values. Founder of Ride, the Tide Collective, Gioscia offers actionable career advice and hosts the Control Your Career podcast. Her expertise has been featured in Newsweek, CNBC, and Fast Company, cementing her reputation as a leading voice in career development. Welcome, Gioscia. Gioscia. Alyssa is a highly sought-after executive coach specializing in working with high-performing executives and entrepreneurs. With a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by individuals in these demanding fields, Alyssa has dedicated her career to helping them unlock their full potential and achieve extraordinary results. With over a decade of experience in coaching, Alyssa combines her extensive knowledge of leadership development, performance psychology, and personal growth strategies to empower her clients to excel in their respective domains. She possesses a remarkable ability to connect with individuals, build trust, and create a safe space for exploration and growth. Welcome, Alyssa. Ericka Hyson. Ericka doesn't just talk the talk, she has walked the walk. She has a proven track record of building and scaling successful, high-growth companies in the staffing industry. Ericka founded Hyson Advisory with a strong passion and mission to empower staffing industry CEOs to break through plateaus, accelerate growth, and lead their teams into the future. Recognized for her industry influence, Ericka chairs the ASA's Women's Leadership Council and co-authored Together We Rise. She serves on multiple nonprofit and company boards. A College of William and Mary graduate, she's relocated from Boulder, Colorado to Charlotte, North Carolina this summer with her family. Welcome, Ericka. Fabienne Hansen. Fabi, a former industrial engineer turned side hustle coach and YouTuber, helps millennials working in a corporate job to achieve personal and financial freedom by building a purpose-driven 6-figure side hustle without giving up their 6-figure income. She shows that there's no need to become a corporate dropout. In order to pursue your dream of personal and financial freedom, she found a better way. Prior to moving to her new home in Austin, Fabi led the production, innovation, and design group at Mercedes-Benz Vans in Silicon Valley. Originally from a small town in Germany, Fabienne comes from a diverse background in product innovation through Lufthansa, Volkswagen, Porsche, Frog Design, Retail Me Not, and Mercedes-Benz before founding her coaching side hustle in 2021. Welcome, Fabi. Shelley Paxton. Shelley, a 26-year veteran of advertising and marketing, left her mark on iconic brands like McDonald's, Visa, and Harley Davidson. As Harley Davidson's CMO, she reached the peak of success but felt empty. This awakening led to her mission, business, and best-selling book, Soulbatical, a corporate rebel's guide to finding your best life. And now Chief Soul Officer, she advocates for redefining success to prioritize humanity, well-being, and soul. Her work featured on NBC, CBS, Forbes, Inc., and Thrive Global, positioned her as a respected thought leader and sought-after keynote speaker, hailed as the next Brené Brown by Chip Conley. Shelley's signature keynote, Where Soul Meets Success, a new leadership roadmap, sparks a ripple of impacts in lives, businesses, and cultures. Based in Chicago, she's passionate about mental health advocacy and the color orange, on a mission to empower a billion souls to live boldly. Thank you, Shelley. And then finally, Carol Donnelly. Carol, my colleague, is a seasoned professional and with 10 years experience in the sales industry. She works for Roc Search and with a keen eye for talent and a knack for finding the perfect fit. With a passion for connecting people with opportunities, Carol excels in matching candidates with their ideal roles. Her dedication to her craft and commitment to excellence makes her a trusted partner for both the clients and candidates alike. Thank you and welcome, Carol. And welcome to you all. That's all you're really going to hear from me today. So that's the good news. Now we're going to get straight into the questions. So I'm going to kick off with my first question here, which I'm going to ask Julie if it's cool if you can answer this first, and then maybe someone else, Shelley, if you can add in. When do professionals typically seek career advice, and is there an ideal time to do so in one's career journey?
I love this question because so many people think about, oh, should I get a coach now? I don't know. Is this the right time? No, I'm not an executive. I can't possibly have a coach or a mentor or something like that. And the reality is people seek advice at all points in their career. And that advice is going to look different generally, depending on where you're at. So I'll give you kind of an overview of the types of advice that people will look for kind of regardless. We have exploration, which can be career exploration, or self-exploration, which tends to happen at pretty much every stage. And then we have management. That's really career management, but can also be self-management. So how do we show up in our careers and our lives and things like that? And then we have kind of the issues, right? We have an issue going on and we need advice on that. That's very common, but some people don't realize how many resources are out there for common career issues that you are going through. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about some of that today. And then advancement. This is the most common. People think, oh, I need a career coach or a coach to help me to that next level for my job search, for a leadership role, something like that. So those are kind of the areas that we see people seeking advice in, I would say most commonly. Obviously, there's more than that. And then the stage that you're at, it's going to look a little bit different as well. So for those listening, you want to think about, okay, where am I at and what is going on at this point and what type of advice could I use that would be really helpful? So most people who are in their early career, or what I would call post-college for a lot of people, they're really going to be in an exploration phase. This is going to be usually themselves, right? We're trying to figure out who we are in the working world, what we want to do. Sometimes we have an idea of the type of work, but not always. Sometimes college was a place for us to try different things, and then we go into the workforce and we continue to try different things till we find something that lands. And then we have the mid-career, which is the longest period of time that generally will also encompass a lot of life changes that tend to happen. And where I see people kind of miss the boat on career advice is recognizing that as our life changes, we need to seek out different types of advice, right? As we build families, as people pass on, as we go through just these big life events, sometimes we need that extra advice to come in. And then we have kind of the later career, what I call the back half of your career, where some people branch out into leadership and executive roles. Other people don't, and that's okay. And we have to think about what does that look like and how do we find the right advice to fit the stage that we're in. And I do have to give a nod to encore careers as well. This doesn't get talked about a lot, but this is post-professional career. So this is, you have retired from your career and you're trying to figure out what does life look like past that. And that also encompasses a lot of exploration and who am I now and what is the type of life that I want to lead. So all that to say, career advice happens at every stage of our career and our life. And there really isn't an ideal time. It's whatever fits for you. And if you've hit kind of a wall of, I think I need some other opinion, I need some extra advice here to help me move forward.
Thank you, Julia. Shelley.
I love that, Julia. Man, write that book. That was amazing. That was really incredible. I just want to make 2 points on top of that. One is reiterating for anybody who's listening to this right now who is midlife or approaching midlife. I love this concept that my mentor Chip Conley termed. It's the be a mentern, which is the combination of a mentor and an intern. And I think that's this really brilliant idea because so often in midlife, we're approached to be the mentor. And this idea that we can also see how we can learn from younger generations and people who are at different stages of their career and who are bringing different skill sets and geniuses and perspectives to their career. So it's a reminder to never forget that we can be both things at the same time, both a mentor and an intern, and never forget the beginner's mindset is always one of our best friends at any stage of our life and our career. And the second point I wanted to make is to please not forget to check in with yourself at every stage of your career. One thing I wish somebody would have said to me early on, and I'm sure this will be a thread as we get through more questions with this amazing panel, that listen to yourself as well. I know I was so obsessed with asking and polling and listening to everyone around me and people who were ahead of me on the path that I forgot to listen to what's inside, what matters most to me, what are my truth and my values. So I'll plant that seed that we can come back to later on, but it's a reminder that you can also be your best advisor and mentor throughout your own journey as well.
Bam, love it. Well, we've set the expectation high on advice here, so that was fantastic. If anyone wants to add in, please don't hold yourself back. Please be free to comment. Shelley, can I carry on with you if that's okay? So just leading on to the next question, many professionals experience unfulfillment in their roles without understanding the root cause. How can individuals address burnout effectively in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to give the Shelley Paxton perspective in my own words, and I know that it's gonna pull through because I love that so many of us are very aligned in the work we do, and yet we use slightly different language in talking about it. So I want to set the table by saying I believe we need to rethink how we define success as a starting point. So for me, my journey leaving Harley Davidson 7 years ago, realizing that I got to the peak of the proverbial mountain and I had ticked all the boxes and I had done all the things that my parents and so many people around me told me it was going to bring me fulfillment and light me up. And yet I had this super sexy, career and this iconic dream job when it comes to marketing, working for Harley Davidson. And like you said, I felt empty inside. And what I wish I would have known is that success is a feeling. Success comes from in here, like I was saying earlier. Success is not a checklist. And so grounding us there as a way for us to think about what does it really mean to be successful. I love to play with that language because I'm somebody who went, wait a second, everyone's saying I'm successful, but I feel success empty. Where is this thing that we call full? And what I've realized now, and so much of my mission in the world, as you described, Danny, is to help us understand how we can shift our own definitions of success to what matters most to us. So one question I love to ask is, how does success feel for you? What do you want more of in your life and at the end of every day? Is it more joy, more connection, more health? Go on and on, fill in the blank here. I think that's super powerful. And so that idea of what does successful look like to you, and where are you telling yourself stories about what you should be doing? So a big part of my work is releasing the shackles of should. I think it's a brilliant place to start. And I know some other of our amazing panelists have comments on very similar things, but understanding where, as I love to say, you're shoulding all over yourself and you want to decide, you catch yourself in that language and you get to reframe, and understanding truly what are your values and allow that to start guide you in creating your own script of success. So I'll pause there because I know we have lots more to say.
Oh, thank you. I love that, Shelley. Thank you so much. Alyssa, can I ask you to give your views on that?
Absolutely. And I was nodding along with Shelley because my journey was similar. I was in the corporate space and hit some major health issues and some feelings of like, why do I feel dread when my alarm goes off every day? Because I was crushing it at work, but I personally was having a really hard time in my life. So when I'm working with clients, the first thing that I'm talking about is, are you doing the things that you want to be doing? Or are you doing, Shelley said, what you should be doing? Like, well, my parents told me this and I've been working my way up the ladder and now I have to manage people, and all of these stories and ideas we have around what we're supposed to be doing because there's a certain track we have to follow, and realizing like that's not the case. Like, I love coaching, but I do not like managing people in a corporate setting. I prefer being an individual contributor. But in certain places, like, well, that's not okay. Yeah. Or, I want to do this role, but I've been doing that role. Well, ask. Well, I could never, so there's all these rules that we put on ourselves and ways that we hold ourselves back, or ways that we are doing the job we're supposed to be doing, or that our parents want us to be doing. Or like Julia said, our life has changed, but we're still doing what we were doing 10 years ago and it doesn't work anymore. So you really want to get clear on like, where am I and what am I really looking for in my life right now? Because if they're not in alignment, it's just exhausting. And I don't think we have to live by a certain set of rules that our parents, brought us through, or even that we've seen. For some people, it's great. Like, some people have the energy and they could be any age and they are just working 20 hours a day and they love it. And to me, I'm like, that sounds exhausting. I barely want to work 20 hours a week right now. So what is for me going to make sense? And what does that look like? I know Fabi talks about like, how do you have that side hustle? So is it you're doing your corporate thing plus something fun that you enjoy? Or is it a shift in job? Or is it simply making requests where you are that are going to make it different for you and the experience that you want now?
Thank you so much, Alyssa. I'm gonna go into the next question. So, are there specific exercises or frameworks that professionals can utilize to clarify their purpose and goals in their career paths? And Fabi, can I hand that over to you?
Oh, absolutely. More than happy to talk about it. Yeah. And so I actually want to have some engagement in the chat real quick, because I really want to know if you've been feeling like lost in your career lately, or you've been thinking about building a purpose-driven business, but you really don't know what that business is all about. I just want you to comment lost in the chat so that we know that we're talking about the right things here for you as well. And yeah, so I want to give you some quick, really great exercises, especially if you feel like you're kind of a little bit stuck right now. And I use them for my entrepreneurs that I teach, but it's also helping a lot when it comes to just finding clarity. And I call it the Feel Alive Moment exercise. But also, because we're talking about purpose here, and purpose is very key, right? To chase something that is larger than yourself. That's where the true fulfillment comes. So I will also give you 2 guiding questions on how to find your purpose in less than 30 minutes. So quick story here. When I turned 30, I was diagnosed with a pre-stage of cervical cancer. And I will never forget that day where I was just, climbing up the corporate ladder at Mercedes-Benz faster and faster. And I got the diagnosis. And the first thing that really came through my mind was like, if I were to die this year, like, what would I have contributed to the world? And that question really stuck with me. And I remember I went through a lot of surgeries, and in my the last surgery that I had, like I was waiting in the big waiting room at the Stanford University clinic, and you look around and you really think like, at the end of your life, like, what really really truly matters is not how much money you have, how many promotions you got, right? What at the end of the day, what matters is what are the memories you collected in your life. And so that really hit me when I was waiting there like waiting to get my last surgery. And so that's when really the Feel Alive Moment challenge was born. And I want you, if you're feeling stuck or lost right now, to really hone in on that and do that. It's super simple. So you literally take sticky notes. And what you do is you think about the first activity you do in the morning. So let's say you make some coffee in the morning or use the bathroom. You put the sticky notes there and a pen. And every morning for 14 days, you just take 2 minutes and you think back on a specific memory that made you really feel alive. And don't just say like, oh, when I went on a vacation to Bali or Thailand. Like, be really, really specific as to what really this memory is. Like, think about really like someone took a picture of it and describe that picture. And then what you do is you do that over 14 days and you think about like really themes that come up over and over again. And then you use that as like your reference of building the ideal career or the ideal business around the life you want to create. Because what I noticed when I coach as a side hustle coach, that it sounds fun to like get some money on the side, but if your heart's not in it, if there's no purpose in it, it's going to be very, very tricky. And like you want to really build the life that you want first in your mind and then build the business or the career around it versus, having the business first or the career first and then try to like fit your life into it, because that will set you up for failure. And so the last thing I want to also say when you do the Feel Alive Moment Challenge, another thing too that I mentioned, and I know that Shelley also talked about it too, is like, that your purpose. And there are so many books and exercise on how to find your purpose. And 2 questions that I really think have been a game changer is, what makes you really, really upset about the world? And what is it about the world that makes you cry tears of joy? So really think about movies that you watched, documentaries you watched, or a podcast you listened to. And whenever you feel like you're really just crying tears of joy or you're really upset, that's a really good indicator of caring for a cause that is bigger than yourself that you want to chase. So I leave it to that. I know that was a lot of information, but I hope
was a lot of amazing information. It was fantastic, Fabienne. Thank you for being so vulnerable and open about your story and your journey. We really appreciate it. Julia, can I ask you to comment on this as well?
Yeah. And Fabi, I'll say again, like, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that, because honestly, I think that's part of what this conversation is around this question, because we have these big life events that happen that completely change how we view ourselves, how we view the world. And so for me, my parents passed away very close together and completely changed everything of what I wanted in life and started me on a totally different journey that I never thought I would be doing right now. And so for me, what I did in that season was I looked at my values. So as a career coach, looking at your values is something I've done with clients for many, many years. But then when you have to really do it yourself, you realize, oh, okay, yes, I need to do this as well, right? I can't just tell other people they need to do it. But this is something that I have a freebie on my website around values, because I feel like this is such an important topic when you are faced with something that's making you go, oh, I think something's happening here and I don't know where to start, right? So if you're in your position and you get that inkling of something's not feeling good about this, or a big life event happens that's making you start to think different, going back to your values. And I think doing this in combination with what Fabi talked about is like the perfect combination of things to do. Do her 2-week thing and then come and do the values for me, because I think that will allow you to take the information you uncovered for those 2 weeks, and you will have a better mindset to look through a list of values and go, what do I really care about? And so that's really what our values are. It's what do we care about? What are the things in our life in this season that are important to us? So one thing that I want to make sure everybody understands, your values will shift as you go through things, right? So as things happen at work, as life events happen, all of that, your values will shift. There are some that will generally stay as like core to who you are, but there are other things that will shift. So anytime that you have a shift, you definitely want to be reevaluating those values. And if you are in a relationship with somebody, if you have a partner, I highly recommend that you both do that type of exercise together to make sure that either you're in alignment, or if you have differing values, that those values are being taken into consideration. And when we talk about career, this helps us make decisions moving forward. So what ends up happening a lot is we look at, okay, I want to advance, I want a new job, what do I want to do? Well, I could do this, I could do that, have the skill set to do this. And it becomes very overwhelming. When you have those values set, it allows you to look at a position. It allows you to look at a company and go, does this align with where I'm at right now? When I was in my full-time career, I said no to a really amazing opportunity because not only was it too far from where I lived, and I lived in Southern California at the time, and if you know anything about that, the traffic is terrible, but also it was an established office. There was nothing for me to fix, and I'm a fixer, and I wanted to come in and fix things. So for me, going into an established office was boring, and I didn't want that. And so it was very easy for me to say no, because it did not align with my values at the time. Now, some people think I'm crazy for not taking that opportunity, but for me, it absolutely made sense because I was so clear about what I wanted for my life. So if you're like feeling that, oh, what am I doing? Where do I go? Start with values, start with Fabi's exercise to just get your mind right and get you kind of in a place of, okay, this is who I am, and then move forward from there.
I love it. Thank you so much. Just on the question of partners, how can you convince your partner to do those value exercises, without them thinking there's some sort of ulterior motive? Any advice on that? Or?
Yeah. So a lot of times once people get to me, their partners usually already know that they're going through something. And the partners are usually the ones that are like, you need to talk to somebody because I cannot handle you anymore. So if you're at that place, usually they're okay doing it. Yeah. What I would recommend if you haven't really had that conversation yet is, one, to have the conversation, but not only that, do the exercise first yourself to see what comes out, and then use that as a talking point with your partner so that you can talk about what you found out and see what they think, and then ask them to go through that process. I've done it with a lot of clients, and it has been so helpful to get everybody on the same page, especially if we're talking about a big career change or move that somebody wants to make.
Brilliant. I love it. And by the way, there are a lot of questions coming in. We have a Q&A at the end, and so we'll wait until the end to go through that. And we're going to try to share all the resources and guides and information about all of you whilst you're talking through what you're doing as well. Alyssa, before I hand over to the next question, I'd love to hear from you on this one.
Yeah, what I love about what Julia and Fabi are talking about is there's a lot of data mining going on at the beginning, which I do the same thing. So I use an exercise called the facts. So one of the facts is complaints. Like, what are you complaining about? Because the things that you're complaining about are often latent visions. So the thing that you don't like is actually the opposite of what you really want. So we can use that to think about, like, how do I turn that into a positive? So make a list. What are the things that I'm complaining about right now? What am I avoiding? Like, how can I use those things to look at what my vision is? Because it's usually under there. We just don't necessarily know how to flip it into something that's a positive. So you're like, oh, I dislike XYZ about what's going on. Great. Talk to your boss. What does that look like? Or talk to your colleagues. What does that look like? Get your mentor, get your coach, and flush it out. Because once you have the vision that's clear, it's aligned with your values, it's where you want to go, you've got your purpose, then it's very easy to make decisions, and you can say yes to the things that are going to move you forward. And it makes it really easy to say no to things that are out of alignment, which also helps with burnout because you're not wasting your energy on things that are not moving you forward. So that's one of the exercises I really like to do.
I love it. I love it. So many takeaways, so many absolutely amazing pieces of tips and tricks here for people to actually utilize and do something with. And I love that. So it really helps our community today. All right, I'm going to move on. Alyssa, I'm going to carry on with you if that's okay. Yeah. And I can see that Carol has left the room. I actually work in the same office as her, so I can see her strolling around trying to figure out what's going on with her virtual event. So I'm seeing it in virtual and in real life. I'm sure we'll be okay. So what are the clear signs indicating that it's time for professionals to consider seeking new opportunities rather than remaining in roles where they feel stagnant?
Ooh, that's such a good question. So I think this is a very mixed bag. First of all, I really want to understand, like, what's making you unhappy? Like, is it a negative environment? Is it your mindset about the environment? Is it your boss has been telling you you're getting a promotion for a year and nothing has happened? Like, what's really going on? Because we can tell stories about the reality of things, which will make us feel like they're much worse than they are. So if we can get clear on what's really going on and then align values and vision, we can look at, like, hey, maybe it's time to move on, or maybe it's simply time to, like, ask for that promotion and stop waiting for somebody to tell you it's time. Or maybe it's truly too many things in life have changed and this job of 60 hours a week isn't in alignment anymore. So it's really getting to the core, again, of the values, the vision, the purpose, and where your life is versus what's going on, and understanding the truth of the situation outside of the stories we like to tell, and then figuring out how you want to move forward. Because sometimes, like, if you're an executive and you are action oriented, it might be a minor dial click that you need to make and not a huge shift, just minor things that are going to make you happy. Or it might be like, yes, it's time for something completely different, and let's flesh out what that is. So it's kind of a loaded question. There's so many different ways that it could go, but I'm sure other ladies here also have their thoughts on that. But for me, it's really like, what's the core of what's going on, so you can move forward with a very sober mind about it. Because if you jump ship too soon or stay too long, either of those can be detrimental if you're not doing it thoughtfully.
Yeah, and you raise a really good point around the fact that you have to sometimes just ask, where you're at with your company. Is there an approach that you would take on that? Because I know a lot of people have that fear of not even rejection, but what could happen if it doesn't work out. So how would you approach it in your experience?
What I generally talk about is, like, what's the worst that could happen? Because we catastrophize almost always, but it's not likely that if you talk to your boss about something, they're like, that's it, you're fired. But that's in our mind kind of what we think. We think it's going to be the most extreme thing, but usually it's a good conversation and it goes well. And a lot of times it's like, hey, if one of your colleagues asked you that question, how would you respond? And they're like, oh, I would love to have that conversation. Great. So why don't we think our boss would be the same? So again, really talking about the truth of what the situation is, and also understanding the worst case scenario so you know that, and being comfortable with the discomfort, because a lot of these things are uncomfortable for us, which is a big reason why we don't want to do them. And probably everybody on this call is like, yeah, you kind of have to just live in the discomfort of things and go for it. But that's really where the growth happens. So that to me is like one of the biggest steps.
Brilliant. Alyssa, thank you so much. Julia, I'd like to lean on you on this one.
Yeah, so I love, again, Shelley mentioned this earlier, how what we do aligns and we have slightly different language around it. And I feel like Alyssa described something in my business that I call realistic reality. And so it's what is actually happening. And so I get a lot of clients that come to me because they're burnt out or they are in toxic environments and they're trying to figure out, like, how do I get out? What do I do? And I make them sit down and tell me specifically what has happened to make them feel like they're in a toxic environment. Because to Alyssa's point, we catastrophize a lot of the time. And so I want to make sure that whatever their situation is, it is a real bad situation that they need to get out of, versus is it something that's going on inside of you? Because so many of us have different triggers and traumas from our lives that we bring with us from career to career. And that can be a career thing. There is trauma that you can have within your career, or from your childhood. And then that can manifest in how you speak to your manager or those relationships that you have at work. And so I want to make sure that we're getting to the root of what is going on there versus, well, I think they don't like me because they said something with this tone. And it's like, yeah, but they didn't actually say anything. They're just giving you constructive feedback as a manager. And that's what they need to do. However, what I will say is too many people stay in legitimately toxic environments because they don't recognize the signs, because they are used to being treated a certain way that is not okay. In some cases, they feel like they can't move on, right? They feel like they need to stay for somebody, right? Well, I promised this person I would stay for them. Or, you know, I don't think I can get a job because of XYZ, whatever story you're telling yourself. Those are the situations where I would say you absolutely need to take the steps to move out, and you can do that. It might take some time, you know, depending on your situation, but if you are in a legitimately toxic and harmful workplace, you need to get out of there as quickly as you can.
Hear, hear. I absolutely agree. Carol, you're back in the room. Are you good over there?
Back.
She's back.
Yeah, all good. I do apologize. Had a little technical difficulty there. We are back in action. So thanks so much, Danny.
No worries. At least you got your steps in. So why don't you give us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I really like this topic because it's pretty much the bread and butter of the role that I play in the job search part. So I'd say about 85% of our jobs on the recruitment side is actually going out and talking to candidates who we don't know if they're unhappy at their job. We don't know if they're feeling fulfilled or not, but getting that conversation going and asking the right questions to kind of get the wheels turning, to think, for them to think to themselves like, oh, do I have this? Do I see myself here in 5 years? So it's really kind of taking the time while you're in a good standing with your career, not necessarily when you're actually looking for a job, but when you're actually there mid-career, you thinking of the possibilities of where you can see yourself advancing, what steps you need to take to get there, to actually speak to your supervisor, as Alyssa mentioned, and just see what the possibilities are, both for that position and what the company itself can realistically offer you in the next times or the next coming years. So I always say, if they come back, give you blueprints like here is where you can get to where you need to go. That's always a good sign. If it's vague, if they don't give you concrete steps to get there, it's probably not a realistic position to be in to move up where you need to be. So and then obviously the timing is really important, like I mentioned. So we see a lot of candidates who come to us saying, not going to get this promotion. I've been passed over so many times. So they go to another company, accept an offer, and then when they're trying to leave, then the opportunity presents itself in that moment where the employer is trying to save them either because of their skill or to keep them from going to a competitor. So the timing in which you have that conversation is really important, not just because you pretty much get an honest answer if it's just seems like a hey, I've been thinking about this, instead of, hey, this is why I'm leaving, but also kind of shows you straight up how your employer actually values you as an employee rather than an asset. So on that, reevaluating, I think everyone should do it at every step in their career and not just treat it as something you should do at the end or when you're thinking about leaving.
Absolutely, that makes complete sense. Carol, I'm going to keep your mute on. Off. That's what. Sorry. I'm going to ask you this next question. So, what proactive steps can professionals take to identify and pursue new job opportunities that align with their career goals and their aspirations?
Yeah. So I'd say, kind of piggybacking on the topic, previous topic, is a lot of people think of the job search as a necessary process that only happens, a couple weeks when you don't have a job or you're fed up with your job. So the way that we kind of look at it on our side of the business is that it's not an isolated thing, right? You should always be, entertaining conversations, networking, talking to anyone who reaches out to you, anyone who offers, to tell you about a new opportunity, not because you always want to be looking to move, but it never hurts to entertain those conversations and keep an open mind, because the thing you don't want to do is, be in the position where you actually need to find a new job and you need to leave. It helps to kind of always entertain those conversations when you're in a passive mindset, that you have those resources and you have those connections to fall back on if if A, you do find yourself wanting to leave, or B, one of those conversations.
And she's gone.
That's what I would say, is proactively always take those conversations and network.
You're frozen, but we heard the last bit, Carol. Thank you so much. Love it. Ericka, you've been waiting in the wings for so long, and I'm so excited to hear from you. It's been worth the wait.
I'm excited to be here, and there's so many themes here in this conversation, and I think, knowing our discussion today is about finding your why in your next job, and I'm really conscious of the fact that there's probably folks on this call today who may have just recently lost their job, and potentially there was maybe downsizing going on in their companies, and the job market has been pretty volatile in this year, in the last 6 months. And so hopefully I can respond to this and give some context, no matter where you are in your career, because you're right, you should always be kind of thinking about what your criteria is that aligns with your values. And I love some of the nuggets that are shared today about feeling alive. And I think the word proactive steps is really key to what you asked, Danny. And I'll tell you that early in my career, I was not proactive at all. And I was waiting for that tap on the shoulder. And I thought that hard work would be recognized. And I think that's really typical for a lot of folks, specifically women, who are not always the ones that are going to ask for things. I was one of those women. And Shelley said this earlier. The reality is that we are in the best position to serve our own best interests. And I really cannot carry that flag with you, Shelley, strong enough. I encourage every individual to take ownership of your own development and growth. And I'll give you guys some practical advice here that will apply no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just let go of an opportunity and you're feeling maybe kind of rough and depressed about it. I'll say first that mindset is everything, and see it as an opportunity. Maybe for the first time in your career, you can tell people that you're looking, right? So that's a mindset, right? This is the biggest opportunity that you have potentially to tell the world, I'm exploring new opportunities. So that's very proactive. But also, just, looking at it from a place of, I'm not going to take the first thing. So how do you figure out what those things are that are really aligning with what you want to do? So I'll give you how I do it. And I've made some pretty bold moves in my recent career. I worked for 20 years at one company. So whether you're pursuing a new opportunity within your own company, or you're looking to do something else, so shift careers, or leave your company to go find something else, hopefully this will apply to you. So I look at it in a different way, which is I like to think about my future. And my grandmother lived to be 94, and she had a beautiful life. And I want to be her when I'm 94. So I like to think about, what do I want my life to look like when I'm 94? And I look at it through 4 lenses. You could do 100 lenses, so whatever works for you. I use 4 lenses: myself. What do I want for me? What do I envision for my family? The third category I have is really my friends and community. And the fourth is career. But it could be faith, it could be finance. You fill in the blanks for yourself. I give myself 4 categories because if I had 100, it would be a lot of work. It's still a lot of work. So I start by asking myself, what do I want my life to look like when I'm 94, 75, 65, and so on? And I think the idea of that successful or feel alive can be really nicely tied into this exercise. And then I have a really honest conversation with myself, similar to those in business who are doing like a strategic plan, right? Like, what are the things I'm awesome at? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where are my big opportunities? And what are the threats if I don't start taking care of my health, for example, to live that best life at 94? So I do this little SWOT exercise, and I look at all 4 lenses, and that really gives me the perspective to realize that career is only one little small piece of my life. And a lot of times we think of our careers as everything, and we don't define ourselves by our career. So I know I'm going to be friends with learning more about how to take all my side hustles, Fabi, and do more with them, because I have lots of interests. And this can be a really nice way to say, how do I want to be spending my time? How do I want to show up for the people around me? This will help you define what is important to you, but also help you make choices to inform your decisions and actions towards those goals to set you up for age 94 of that life. If I wanted to do headstands and learn yoga at 94, it's not too late. I look at people like Steve Martin. He's super inspiring to me, who, he's a great actor, and he's like playing the banjo and doing all this cool stuff. I'm 50 and I am not done yet. So this could help you kind of think about that next move in a way that you can also put some things down on paper that might seem crazy and wild and huge aspirational big goals. When I was doing things on a yearly basis, I really wasn't thinking big enough. I was thinking things are just too hard or out of reach. But when I was thinking about things when I'm 94, I could put wild things down. And then this is the really important thing. Share your goals with others. So take your plans, talk to people, socialize them. And being specific will help others know how they can help you. So as it relates to your career and opportunities, we talk a lot about networking and the power of individuals, and you got to know people to get jobs. Recruiters are your friends. Socialize what those things are, and you never know what kind of magic can happen when you talk to people about what you're trying to do. And it also will help you be your North Star. So once you write it down, just like in business, you have your business plan, you have your plan for yourself, you're putting your oxygen mask on yourself, you can use it to help inform your decisions. So in a perfect world, you'd have all your opportunities and jobs lined up at the same time. And in the real world, that never happens. This will help you know what to say yes to and what to say no to, and to also not settle.
Hopefully. Ericka, can I add something to it? Because I really want to hone in on this as well. It's like really allow yourself to be multi-passionate, right? And going for it. Like one career is not going to check all the boxes, period. It's just like that's the case. And like you evolve, your values evolve. We talked about this earlier, right? So like have that permission, just because, what you studied back in school should not determine what you truly want to do in life. And so like really try to figure out what it is that you want to do in life. And then if you want to become a yoga teacher, become a yoga teacher, right? And like maybe pair that with or do it as a side hustle, right? So that you're still getting paid. So I think we live in such an amazing point in time in our history where you can like really try out different hats and see what works and what doesn't work, with the permission to just be multi-passionate, and also the permission to fail your way to success and learn what it is that you truly want. I feel like life is a lot about unlearning who you think you are and learning who you truly are. And I think that's the same with careers.
So many golden nuggets. And I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to go over to the next question. But that was brilliant, Fabi. And thank you so much, Ericka. Ericka, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to continue with you if that's okay. So how can individuals effectively leverage networking to uncover hidden job opportunities and expand their professional circles?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question. I started out my career as a recruiter, and networking is my superpower. I'm always a recruiter at heart, and people ask me the question all the time of how do I become good at networking, or how do I lean into that? I think your network is your net worth. And, you do hear those sayings about, you need to know people to find that opportunity. I mean, recruiters are definitely your friends. They know people. But, really being able to seek out folks in your network and be intentional about your networking. You can think about, people that you want to meet. You can think about who in your network could introduce you to people. But you definitely want to put yourself out there. And if you're passively exploring, I would definitely start with people you trust in your innermost circle, and make it super easy. If you're open to it and you are one of those folks I talked about earlier who maybe just lost your job or are really actively looking and exploring, make it super easy for people to socialize that you are exploring new opportunities. So write a post on LinkedIn and ask them to share it as an example of networking. Also, build your personal pitch about what you are passionate about doing once you've done all this homework we're giving you today, because just because you can do it doesn't mean you want to do it, right? So don't rely on your resume to make recruiters do the work for you. Make sure you're clear on what you want. And then don't underestimate how much time it takes to really cultivate your network. And that's an ongoing effort. It shouldn't really be about your job. I always take the mindset of really just giving, and then asking. So being curious, listening to people, making connections, and then asking, like, how can I help you? Or listening for opportunities to add value to people in your network. And a lot of people say this all the time, that many jobs are never posted, or I applied to this job on a website and I never heard anything back, which is a terrible user experience. It's an embarrassment, honestly, for the industry. But just really being open to and making a habit of asking individuals in your network if they're hiring, and having a list of people you can introduce or refer to them for open positions will help you kind of be that connector. And, if people are looking for work, offering to make introductions. If people need help, or if you have companies that you admire or want to explore opportunities in, finding out if you know people that work there, and leveraging LinkedIn as much as possible. It's certainly a powerful tool.
It really is. Ericka, I love this. And just on top of that, I think one thing I've noticed when speaking to people looking for a job, or maybe have lost a bit of that confidence, is realizing what their superpowers are. But also, when in doubt, send yourself out. Like, just send your resume out, send your information over. Just, there is so much fear of like rejection before you have these assumptions. So I think it's the network part, like your network is your network, but some people don't have a network. So build it out, just message these people. And if you can't find the hiring manager at a company, ask someone who works there, how did you find a job? Because they'll know, because they got the job there. So I think you've so many pearls of wisdom. I love it, Ericka. Thank you so much. Julia, I'm gonna ask you to answer this as well. And then I'm gonna go into our final question before we hand over to our audience, which I've got loads of questions for you. But Julia, why don't you give us your 2 cents on that as well?
Yeah, networking is always such a hot topic. I feel like when we're doing this. So a couple of things I want to say about the hidden job market, because that is a term that has been around for a very long time. I heard it way back when I started career coaching, before we had a lot of online job boards. That's how long I've been doing this. And the hidden job market, back in the day, was essentially getting ahead of the hiring process, because we didn't have a lot of online job boards. So you really had to utilize your network. Now it's very different. There are a lot of laws and things in place that require employers to post for a certain number of days and things like that. So the idea of the hidden job market, it's not as hidden as everybody seems to think that it is. The way that I view it now is we are connecting with people in order to be the top of mind person when that position is posted, or when they're starting to think about, I need a position for this, or this person's leaving, who could be a good person. Because what I see a lot, and I went through this when I worked in myself as a hiring manager and other hiring managers, we wanted to get a referral before we got anything else, like before we looked at the online things, all of that. So when you're in that type of environment, knowing people and having a good network of people who can refer is really, really valuable. And so as a job seeker, you have to think about that. And to Ericka's point, you have to have people that are going to connect you and that can vouch for you. So it's not just about, oh, can you connect me to this company or to this person? but can you say something good to them? Can you help make that connection for me? And I think that's really important. And so a lot of people leave that part out of it. They're not building the relationship. They just want the conduit. The other thing I will say also is make sure that you're networking in a way that aligns with your personality. So I am an introvert. Many people do not believe that about me, but I'm very introverted. You are likely not going to see me at like some kind of mixer situation in front of people. That is my worst nightmare. I'm not good at those things. If I go, I usually have an extrovert buddy who knows everybody and will like introduce me to people and all of that. The way that I prefer to network is reaching out to people individually, or I have a number of what I call connectors in my network who know a lot of people, but also know me very well. And I lean on those people throughout the year to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. Do you know anybody? And they always know somebody, right? So really think about who you are and how you're comfortable and network in that way. There is no right or wrong answer, but you have to be comfortable and confident. And if you're trying to put yourself into situations where you're nervous and you're not confident because of the environment, it's not going to work out well for you. So really listen to yourself when it comes to that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I've got a final question. I'm going to shorten it and also ask everyone. I want everyone to give me an answer on this and before we go to the audience. So I'm going to shorten it a little bit. So what role have mentors had on shaping your career and the advice they've given you? And what advice do you have for individuals who are interested in finding the right mentor? So I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to do it on the order of what I see, and maybe it's different for other people, but this is what I see. Julia first, and then we're just going to go around, okay?
Oh, I don't know if you want me to go first on that. So I'm going to be a little like Debbie Downer when it comes to mentors. So I think if you can find the right person, it's absolutely wonderful. One thing that I will say is I leaned on mentors within my organizations for a number of years, and I got burned multiple times by these people because I did not, we didn't have a clear understanding of what the relationship was. And I shared situations that I was going through to get advice, as mentors do. And a lot of those things ended up being shared with people that they shouldn't have been shared with. And what it basically came down to was I was trusting the wrong people and I was being vulnerable with the wrong people. And these are people that had very high standing. People loved them. There's no reason that I should have had any of that happen, but it did. And so now whenever I talk about mentors, I always give that cautionary tale of make sure that you are very explicit about what the relationship is, what is in it for everybody, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, because you never want it to come back on you, especially if you're looking at mentorship within your organization. Because people talk and people are a lot of times in it for themselves. How are they going to advance? Yes, there are great people who want to help you advance as well, but you have to look at both sides of it. So I know that's a little bit negative to start out, but I always like to make sure that people are getting what they need. So have a variety of mentors and be very cautious about what you share and how you talk to them.
Thank you, Julia. Alyssa.
Yeah, for me, especially as now a solopreneur, it's really been about finding the tribe of people. So it's people who share my values. And so I have like some people who I go to for things related to faith, some people I go to for things related to coaching, some for business. So for me, it hasn't been about having just one person. Of course, it's having multiple people. So as a coach, I have coaches because I think we should, drink our own medicine or whatever. But for me, it's like, okay, if I'm having something related to how do I want to incorporate my faith into my business, I need to talk to somebody who has done that. So it's really looking for people who have similar values and who are ahead of me. Sometimes people where we're going side by side and we're just kind of like encouraging each other along the way on the journey. And I like having that variety of people in my life to go to. and people sometimes who can give me a little comfort, and other times people who are like, stop it, that's nonsense, let's go over here, and who are going to challenge me. So sharing the same values, yes, but also people who are willing and able to help me grow and help me like get over my own stuff, because we're always the most blind to our own things. So that's been really helpful for me when looking at mentorship, is really that tribe of people who are helping me grow.
Find your tribe. Love it, Alyssa. Thank you so much. Fabi.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. And I think it should be organic, right? And I think it should always lead with value. So the best mentors I have in my life are also different areas of my life, like health, business, relationship, everything. I usually found them because I just provided a ton of value to the people around them. And then I got introduced, or like always just like lead with value. And to Alyssa's point, also always ask like for feedback. I'm like, I think feedback is a love language. So I would always say, are you open to feedback? I would give them feedback. I would take a stand for the people that I'm coaching, but also I would like to have it in the other way around too. So I think it's like, it's not a one-way street, right? It's basically a two-way street. And so I would really say the best advice to find the right mentor is surround yourself, if you're in the entrepreneurial community, go to different entrepreneurial events. I would even say outside of your company, right? So that you get a different perspective as well. I think that's key, because again, at the end of the day, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? And so you want to make sure that it's not always the people at work, but really make sure that it's the people that you can learn from, but also who challenge you to be better.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fabi. I love it. Shelley.
Oh my gosh, yes to all of that. And maybe to put a finer point on some of what's been said, I fully believe that it's really about who they are and how they show up in the world. I think we get so obsessed as a culture, in the US in particular, about what people do. So let's talk more about how they show up. How do you want to show up in the world? What is your success currency? Mine happens to be impact. I don't really talk in terms of money. I talk in terms of energy and impact. So I want to find people and mentors in my life who are showing up in that way, and what can I learn from them? So think about it. What is your success currency? How do you want to show up in the world? And then who are the people that you can learn from? So who and how versus the what have been secrets for me.
Brilliant. I love it. Thank you, Shelley. Ericka.
I'm a huge fan of an advocate for having mentors. So I love this question. I would just encourage you, if you've never had a mentor and you're thinking about getting one or exploring mentoring or being a mentor, don't overthink it. Mentoring can take so many shapes and forms. It can be formal or informal. And if you're going to reach out to someone to ask for mentorship, be really specific about what it is you're trying to do and why. It's really awkward, and people are like, will you mentor me? And you don't really know what the commitment is or why you're asking, especially if it's someone that you don't know. So if you can be really specific of something that you need some help with. And lastly, I'll just say that I love to have people I surround myself with a personal board of directors that complement things that I need help with, like the others have mentioned, but I really do seek out folks that are different. So different perspectives, the more diverse, the better. And I actually love it when people challenge me. I'd rather have people on my little personal board that are not going to just agree with me. And some of the best informal mentors I reach out to, and it's really more of, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Can you help me see this from another point of view? What am I not seeing? What am I not thinking about? And those have been really invaluable conversations.
I love it. I don't like people challenging me, but I love that you do. So at least we can, opposites attract. Ericka, I love it though. Jokes aside, it was fantastic, really fantastic. Carol, last but not least, we're going to ask you, I'd love to hear your answer, and then we're going to answer a couple of questions from the audience, because I'm obviously very conscious that we're nearly out of time with 6-7 minutes to go.
Okay, great. Yeah, just a quick one. When I think about mentorship, I think about mentors that aren't just there to tell you how to do the job in the way that they've done it. For me, a mentor has been in your shoes, obviously has that experience, but is open about the mistakes they've made and is also trying to learn from you as well. For me, mentorship is a two-way street, not just sticking to the way that you did it for all these years, but also, incorporating what your mentees bring to the field or bring to the business, and just kind of growing. I don't think that there's ever one way to do something that stays the same for any amount of time, especially in the world we live in. So yeah, and also a mentor that is open to sharing their mistakes, because I think that's honestly, especially in recruitment, that's the best way that we learn, unfortunately, is the things that don't go through. So a mentor that is humble and shares that, but also brings that wisdom to the table, and is also looking to learn on their end as well.
Brilliant, Carol. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go straight into the questions. So Renee Gonzalez, anyone can answer this. You guys have made some great points around how sometimes people pursue a certain career path because it's what they should do. What are some other common mistakes or missteps you see people make in the professional journey? Anyone? Don't all speak at once. It's fine.
I'll just say that it's really, when you're interviewing for a job, you're being interviewed, but put yourself in the position where you're also interviewing the company, right? And I think it depends on your position. I'll just go back to what I said earlier. Give yourself the position of power and remind yourself that you're in the driver's seat of choosing your destiny and take control over, these are your choices that you're making. And is this a place I want to work? Are these people I want to work with? And if you have your criteria, make sure it checks all the boxes. And if it doesn't, make sure you have a good reason why you're saying yes. Don't settle. I think sometimes people forget that they're in a position where they can really ask a lot of great questions to make sure the values align. Not only is it work you can do, but is it something you're interested in doing? Will you have opportunities for learning? All the things that might be important to you. Don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for another interview. Keep asking. It's like dating. Like, if I want to get married, like, is 2 dates enough? Make sure you are really making as informed of a decision as you can. It's a big deal.
Brilliant. And Shelley, I see your hand. I saw your finger and I see your hand.
Exactly.
I thought you were pointing to your book, but it's fine. I was like,
no. Oh yeah, everything's reversed. I was not pointing to my book. I was not doing any shameless selling. But now that you say that, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm really intrigued that the word boundaries hasn't yet come up in this conversation. So I think in answer to this question, one of the things that I say often is, we get to choose boundaries over burnout. And I know when I look at my own, career history, one of the biggest mistakes, to answer Renee's questions, that I personally made was my boundaries were like sandcastles, and the tide was coming in often, and they did not hold, and they were not strong. And so I think I didn't truly understand boundaries. And to pull the thread of values all the way through to this part of the conversation, one of the greatest ways that I now understand boundaries is what's okay and what's not okay in service of my values and my well-being. And literally, when you think about that and you start to operate in service of that and create boundaries in service of that, it becomes a game changer in the way that you show up for yourself, your team, your family, etc. So I want to add that as a common mistake, certainly, that I made.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shelley.
I'll chime in too. I think that there's a moment where we're playing small. So one of the mistakes is to just say like, oh, I don't know if I should apply for this, or I don't know if I should ask for that promotion. Like, the worst that could happen is you get a no. Why wouldn't you? So I think when we hold ourselves back, that will really slow us down on the journey.
Yeah. Okay, I have a final question, and then I'm gonna wrap up. So, Caitlin Craighead, what advice do you have for people that have done the work to understand their why, but are scared to take the leap to a more aligned role path? How can people build the confidence needed to follow that aligned path, or their aligned path?
I can answer this one because
Please.
I feel like what I'm coaching a lot. I'm like switching the 9 to 5 kind of mindset, right? Because what made you successful in your 9 to 5 will not make you successful as an entrepreneur. And so I think the most important thing whenever it comes to, what's stopping you, it always comes back to childhood trauma. I know I want to go down that route, but it is a huge thing, right? Because what's holding you back right now is what's been holding you back your whole life. So I think the big piece too is just really making sure to get to the source of it, of where it's coming from, and really facing that. And I think the best way to do it is really just, action. Like the rewards are on the other side of fear. So how can you, in small steps, really get through this? So let's say you want to become an influencer on LinkedIn. Start posting every day for 30 days. And I can tell you after 30 days, it's not going to be as scary anymore, right? So you have to work through it in order to get to the other side. And I think when it comes to confidence, it really is, it's just like taking action and practice and really figuring out where it was coming from.
And I would love to answer more, but we've run out of time. However, one thing I would ask everyone is please follow, connect, communicate with our panelists. You've heard so much in such a short time from such an incredible array of panelists. Firstly, can I thank all of you for spending the time committed to prepping, working with us on coming here today to give such incredible insight, actionable frameworks, and really giving back your time to this amazing community. So thank you, panelists. And to Josh Baker, who is behind the scenes doing everything, and to our wonderful Roc Search team who have put this all together, and to you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out. We look forward to seeing you all next month for our AI user case event, which will be focused on turning AI into reality. So thank you once again. Happy Hump Day, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.